Hello everybody, my name's Dr. Young, and in this video I just wanted to introduce myself, and I also wanted to say thank you for choosing Ohio University. So what do I do for research? Well, not surprisingly, my research is all centered around analytics, and given my background, I also use that analytics for operations management. So in terms of analytics, I like to develop methodologies, and those could be pre-processing methodologies to prepare data for analysis or modeling. I like to create different methodologies to model data, and I like to extract knowledge from those models once they're developed. In terms of operation, some common topics in operations would include cost estimation, scheduling, order fulfillment, and things of that nature. But given analytics is so diverse and so applicable, I also get into other aspects like financial modeling and environmental engineering. And since I'm passionate about sports, I also have done some research in sports. And I do feel passionate about education, so I do have some research under that topic as well. I'll just go through some of these topics quickly. Most of these topics either come from my thesis project as a master's student or my dissertation as a PhD student or just recent publications that I've had. So I started my research journey with the General Electric Aviation project, and essentially what we did is design software that's used as a preliminary design tool. So every little bit of parts through a jet engine, either military or commercial, we would model in terms of the material cost, labor, hours needed to manufacture those parts, and other things needed to get an idea of how much those jet engine parts would cost. This is a project I worked on for my master's thesis, which essentially boils down to how do we become more accurate at estimating the cost of these jet engine parts. So anytime we repeat processes, there's some learning that's involved, and once we make more and more parts, we actually get better, quicker, and more proficient at creating those parts. So we took a look at a learning rate through a family of jet engine parts to improve the overall accuracy of forecasting. This is another application of that software where we looked at different aspects of forging, and the material cost alone for jet engine parts is quite significant, so we developed a software that would estimate the forging cost of these jet engine parts model. As I noted, I get into financial asset management and financial forecasting and things like this. So this is one of those papers I worked on. And you're seeing some graphs about the model predicting various bond performances or international stock performances. And since analytics is so diverse, I'm also interested in a different type of prediction, which basically groups alike data together, so more or less clustering, so detecting those structures within networks. So they actually have a lot of benefit, and I'll talk about that for just a second. Once you know maybe who sellers are, think of eBay, think of Amazon, we can actually detect whether there's some strategic connections between sellers and buyers that we can actually incentivize that network, so we're actually promoting more and more sales. Now I'll talk a little bit about my sports analytics background. Some of these topics come back from when I was a student, and I had an advisor that encouraged me to explore the use of analytics through anything that I was passionate about. This particular example is trying to predict Hall of Fame status using artificial neural networks, which is a true passion of mine. So it's published way back in 2008, and some of these players were still active at the time or recently retired. And we went through a methodology of predicting whether these players would make the Hall of Fame or not. And then probably one of the things I'm most noted for, at least for the people that know me, and I have actually published this work too, is that my dissertation was called HART, Heuristic Evaluation of Artificially Replaced Teammates. And since I'm a Browns fan, I really thought about a project for my dissertation, and I thought, boy, if I could develop something for general managers in the NFL to use during the draft or free agency, that would be ideal. So they were definitely my motivation. And it definitely has roots in things that I was working on as a PhD student, like cost estimation, human factors, ergonomics, team formation, team compatibility, and what's known as a knapsack problem. A knapsack A knapsack problem is simply this. We have a roster limit, we have a salary cap. How do you pick enough players to fill that roster limit by not exceeding your salary cap? So this, of course, is complicated by many factors: injuries, strength of schedules, other dynamics, resources, etc., etc., etc. So it's very interesting. I'll talk a little bit about sort of the journey I had. I wanted to look at human factors because we all know it takes physical skills to play football. So I needed a way to estimate how athletic these athletes were during their whole careers. So maybe 20 to 30 or so years of age. And how would they perform in NFL combine events over time? And so that presented a unique opportunity for me to build these inputs into my model to assess how valuable from a game-winning perspective these players were to their team, which later basically led to me creating draft strategies and free agency strategies. So we needed a sort of theme in mind when it comes to football, so we included these positions that you're seeing on the left into the model. And ultimately, like I just kind of alluded to, my model was to predict winning percentage of the next season given a team's current roster. So what can you do with this type of analysis? Once you can predict a team success in the following season, we can start to swap out inputs into the model, and we can use that to assess whether a player will be contributing to your success or maybe even losses. So we can have all sorts of applications. One is mock drafts, which you're seeing here. What I like to talk about is that Jamarcus Russell probably will go down as one of the bigger busts in most recent times in the NFL draft. So Jamarcus Russell was actually picked in the 2008 draft, but my model said pick Hall of Famer Patrick Willis. It also has interesting things like picking Brady Quinn at the Lions, who arguably was the most NFL-ready quarterback at the time. The Detroit Lions didn't make a mistake by drafting Calvin Johnson. As a Browns fan, I always felt that this was interesting. It said to draft Adrian Peterson. And again, I would say we didn't make a mistake drafting Hall of Famer Joe Thomas. But there's several other things that were interesting throughout this analysis. And actually, what we'll find later in a publication is that if you look at my first round, we have more players that had more productive years of service in the NFL than what actually happened in the NFL draft. We can look at it in terms of trades within the draft because we can assign points to those picks. We can also look at it from a negotiation standpoint about who you're overpaying or maybe underpaying on your roster. This is one of my most recent publications looking back at Hart and publishing some of the results. And essentially we took a look at experts in the field. So these are GMs or people that evaluate NFL talent. And they basically said that my tool was useful to very useful on categories related to identifying which positions a team should target, which specific players a team should target, draft day trades, and overall decisions with the draft and free agency. This is one of my more recent areas of study. It's actually one of my more recent publications. What you're looking at here is an application to GCP, the Global Consulting Program, and after becoming a faculty and a director in that program, I wanted to give back. I was no longer active as a faculty or a director, but I'm still interested in the program and thought I'd put my analytical skills to use. So actually what I've developed here is an assignment problem. Sometimes we have 250 or more applicants from our undergraduate program that need to go and fill 167 spots in terms of how many we can actually send just due to the capacity constraints that each site has. So we're looking at various inputs of our students and trying to maximize the experience in terms of a faculty's perspective, getting the students that they want, trying to maximize the students' choice of where they go, what their first selection or first priority was, and the site director's perspective in terms of overall program success. So across all sites, if you will. If you have any questions at all, these are some ways you can reach out to me. You can certainly email me. You can also connect with LinkedIn. If you have any questions about our programs related to the online MBA or our Masters of Business Analytics programs or a number of our certificate offerings, just don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can either answer your question or point you in the right direction of who will have that information for you. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, my URL is below. And with that said, just thanks for watching. Again, I appreciate your interest in our program, and I thank you for choosing our program. And if you ever need anything, simply just reach out to me. Thank you.